Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. And you can see my special guest right here on screen with me. Such an honor to have Neale Donald Walsch with us here today. So he's going to come in here in 1 second, but I just want to shout out real quick to people that are in humanities.team on our Facebook pages for Humanities Team, Neale's Facebook page, and the Sign Network is also broadcasting live out to its Facebook pages. So, hey, big shout out to all of you. Thanks for joining us. We have an amazing hour planned. None of it's scripted. So you're going to hear a lot of real heartfelt conversation back and forth with Neale and I. The theme for today's program is accessing divine presence. And of course, Neale Donald Walsch, as we know, is the author of Conversations with God and many other books, movies, etc. So let me give Neale a formal introduction here, and then I'm going to just kind of lay out some of the things we're going to get to during the hour. So Neale Donald Walsch is a modern-day spiritual messenger whose words continue to touch the world in profound ways. With an early interest in religion and a deeply felt connection to spirituality, Neale spent the majority of his life thriving professionally, yet searching for spiritual meaning before experiencing his now famous Conversation with God. The Conversations with God series of books that emerged from those encounters has been translated into 37 languages, touching millions and inspiring important changes in their day-to-day lives. Of note, Neale is also the co-founder of Humanities Team. He's on our Council of Trustees. He's a close partner of Humanities Team. We're going to be talking about all of the really cool things we're doing and that we're going to be doing for the next couple of decades as we're moving forward with our mission here. So we're going to just start out by talking a little bit about the Conversations with God books, which is what brought me and Neale together back in the 90s, over 20 years ago. And then we're going to just unfold this discussion into a lot of really fun and important things we've been doing together. Welcome to the program, Neale. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Steve. It's lovely to be here with you again, and thank you for that very generous introduction.
Well, we're grateful for the time here with you. This is a live program, so Neale's coming in from his home in Ashland, Oregon. I'm coming in from our studio here in Boulder, Colorado. So now, we are going to get to your comments. I see Vance has already commented here on Facebook. He brought in a question that he'd like us to bring to Neale. So we'll get to that question, Vance. And if there are other questions or comments, things that people want to bring in, just put them in chat. I can see them here on the screen, and we'll try and get to as many of those things as we can during the hour. So Neale, as we were discussing here just before we came on the air, throughout the Conversations with God series of books, there is this more than hopeful thing that is shared over and over and over, which is that we're going to manifest the new spirituality, which we could call conscious living, or we could call it oneness. There are many ways things that we could call it, but that we will manifest these things in this generation. And it says in 20 years, it says even in a couple of years, if humanity really gets going, but that it will happen, that it's going to be not only pervasive, but it'll be ubiquitous. Nobody will be left behind. And it also said that the source of it all will be clear to everyone as it unfolds, that it will be understood that God, the divine source, whatever term we want to use, it's Conversations with God, let's use the term God, was the launch point for this whole thing. And this was why I traveled up to Oregon, of course, back in the 90s to meet with you, Neale, because when I read these books, I said, man, you know what, Neale? That dream in your books, that's my dream.
Yes, my dream too. I think it's important for people to understand, though, if I could add something here, Steve, that God is the launch point for all of this, for sure. But one has to ask, if God is the source of all of this, then why is it taking so long? In other words, forgive me for being a bit irreverent, but a fair question might be, what's God waiting for? I began my most recent book with that question. If there really is a God, why is the world in such a mess? If there really is a God, what's taking so long? And why doesn't God just fix things like immediately? Why even have to wait 20 years? Why wait even 20 seconds? Or for that matter, why do the problems even arise to begin with that have to be fixed if there really is a God? Those are fair questions that people ask whenever I talk about this idea of a higher power, of a source, the essential essence, the primary energy of the universe that I call God. And I think we need to look at that because what the answer that I have been given is that God's intention is not to do everything for us, because if that were the intention, then we would not be, how would I say it, constructed in the way we are. So the intention, in my understanding, is for all the sentient beings in the cosmos to have the opportunity to express and experience themselves in their true identity as an aspect or individuation of this thing that we are calling God. So what God has done is to empower us and to give us all the tools that we need with which to create the reality that we wish to experience. That's the process that we're now undergoing. And what's happening here in these most recent times, and what will be happening in the time that's just ahead, is that we are now, in a sense, catching up to the information we've been given. Our consciousness as a species has expanded to the point where we can now really grasp and totally understand, and not just grasp and understand, but implement, put into place the process that will allow us to achieve the outcome that we seek to achieve, which is peace, love, joy, happiness, and plenteousness for all human beings. And how to do that, the process by which we do that, which is simply a process of embracing, accepting, and creating our oneness, looking at the essential point that we wish to implement and personify, that we personify the unity of all of life everywhere. And it takes civilizations, and there are many civilizations, of course, in the cosmos, the human civilization being but just one of them. Excuse me, but it takes civilizations a while to kind of grasp, to evolve to a point where the essential element, the essential essence, the essential truth of life itself is applicable and apparent, and that truth is the truth of our oneness. So we are now getting to the point, like fifth graders moving into sixth grade. We're now getting to the point where in these days immediately ahead, we can not only begin to hear the message, we've been given this message for centuries, but not only hear the message, but we can now begin to implement it, to embrace it as part of our personal individual reality, and to put it into place as part of our collective experience. That's what we're looking forward to in these days immediately ahead. And that's the invitation that all of you have. I don't want to give a speech here, but I'll conclude my opening remarks by saying that's the invitation that life is placing before all of you and all of us. What role, if any, do you choose to play in the movement of our species to a place of ultimate consciousness that produces the outcomes for which we have all yearned for, lo, these many years?
Yeah, I'm into that, Neale. And let me share that as awful as COVID is, and climate change, with the things that we're flooding all over the world, of course COVID now coming back, there's this, we can see this real interdependence of humanity worldwide, where we feel each other, we're concerned about each other, we say prayers for each other, we're vulnerable with each other. And So it feels like this whole evolution toward this conscious living is accelerating through these challenges, and oftentimes it is challenges that will that support change, especially massive change, such as what we're talking about here, where we're really truly living consciously. Another thing that is that there's so many people coming out of COVID that are wanting to change jobs, that are realizing the job they have now isn't fulfilling at all. And so this whole sequester time has maybe put us in touch with our deeper values and our soul's calling. And maybe people are following their soul's calling more than when we were founded back in 2003. Maybe this thing, that was said a couple thousand years ago to don't pursue earthly treasure and give up your soul. Don't do that. And maybe just maybe we're getting better at that.
Someone else put that beautifully, that idea that you just expressed a moment ago, when he said, quite simply, don't go around asking, what are we to eat? What are we to drink? Wherewithal will we clothe ourselves? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you. Which is basically what you just said. When we have our heart and our mind and our soul focused on the very reason that we exist, the agenda of the soul, all these other things will fall in on us almost automatically. And we know individuals who have produced that outcome in their individual lives, and our next step is to see what we can do to cause it to happen collectively for the members of humanity at large, and not just for a person here and a person there, but for the entire species. That's what's up for us next, and that's the possibility that stands before us, even in these times of enormous collective challenge. And I think, Steve, you're right. My experience has been that you're absolutely right, that this time of collective challenge is providing us the perfect context within which to send forth to all of us, to each of us, from one to the other, a single simple message. We're all one. And we're now starting to see that in practical, physical, day-to-day terms. And that's a miracle and a glorious opportunity. So let's not miss the chance to take that opportunity. That's what life is inviting us to do right now, not miss the chance.
Yes, it is. Not miss the chance. And everybody that's here right now with us, that's a part of this conversation, is here for a reason. That we are on a journey. Make no mistake about it. The way we're framing it, the journey in humanity's team, is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, and 19 years from now. And pervasive means it's common, it's spreading. It may be ubiquitous or might not, but it's a tall order to get from here to there in 19 years. But everybody that's watching this program, I have no doubt, is walked out from that place in their life, earlier in their life, like as I did and as Neale did, where we were pursuing jobs and family and so on, all things that are important, but maybe not with spiritual calling in the middle. And now, spiritual calling that's that pursuing that kingdom of heaven that Neale was bringing in. That's what that is.
It drives to the question of, indeed, it is the center of the whole thing. Perfectly put, Steve. That's in fact the reason we're here. It's, as the French would say, that is our raison d'être. It's our reason for being. See, we're not here to achieve anything in particular in the physical sense. It's not about what I thought it was when I was a child, a young man, Get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the house, get the spouse, get the kids, etc., etc. Get the office in the corner with your name on the door. Get the building on the corner with your name on the building. It has to do with none of that. In my understanding, at least, we're here to complete the agenda of the soul. And the agenda of the soul has nothing to do with any of that. Yet, when we complete the agenda of the soul or move toward completion of that agenda, as I said just a minute ago, all these things fall in on us virtually without effort. But what is the agenda of the soul? It seems to me, and I've been told directly, that the agenda of the soul is for us to use the life experience, use our physicality, if you please, to announce and declare who we really are. There's a central question that all of us have to ask ourselves. It's a really simple question. Who am I? Am I really basically a human being, a physical being, a physical entity, like a bird in the sky or a fish in the sea? You know, I'm born, I live, I die, and that's the beginning and the end of it? Or is there something more to who I am? Am I, in fact, a spiritual entity here for a particular reason, having nothing to do with how much stock I own, how much money I earn, how much fame I achieve, how much power I possess, or how much of anything that I'm experiencing, having to do, however, with the opportunity for me to know experientially, to express experientially, indeed to demonstrate who I really am as an individuation of divinity. And people who have done that, and there have been many, people who have done that throughout human history have changed the course of human history. And now we are reaching a place called critical mass, where it's not just one person here or one person there, or one person every 500 years or one person every 2,000 years. It's now getting to the point where we're finally collecting enough energy together, all of us at the same time, that we can produce critical mass right here, right now, in the next few years, in the years just ahead of us. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yes, we are. Yeah, so let's get to, Neale, some of the things that we're collaborating on, and there are many, but let's talk about this collaboration that created this masterclass called Our Final Frontier. And Neale and I worked together, Neale much harder than me, for 3 months to create this program called Our Final Frontier. I remember Neale saying, Steve, this is the effort I put into writing a book, just because we wanted to comb through all of the conversations with God material and identify the 24 most important things in the material and then bring them into the masterclass. Let's go to, we've got a clip here from the masterclass. Again, there are 24 modules. There's no way on this program we're going to do it justice in terms of being able to see the fullness of what it is. But we're going to go to a clip, then we're going to come back and talk about it, and then we will name the 24 modules to give you a sense for what this incredible program is about. We're going to go to that video excerpt now.
Hello, welcome to part 6 of the 24-part program that I've called Our Final Frontier. I'm hoping to take us to the leading edge of our evolutionary experience, which I believe is what we were given in the Conversations with God experience. And today I'd like to explore what I consider to be a surprising and amazing truth that we were given in this dialogue. In our exchange, God said to me, life is not a process of discovery. Life is a process of creation. This came as real news to me, because I'd always been told by many spiritual teachers that life is a school and that we've come here to learn what it means to achieve spiritual mastery and how to do it. Yet I was told in Conversations with God that we have not come here to learn anything. Life is not a school, and learning is not part of the process of the soul's evolution. This stopped me in my tracks, I can tell you, when I first heard it. I had to step outside of my comfort zone in order to look at this idea more closely. When I did, I was able to embrace the CWG message that our experience of consciousness in the physical allows us to remember what we have always known, but have simply forgotten.
The basis of this assertion is the CWG announcement that we are three-part beings made up of body, mind, and soul, and that our soul is an eternal spiritual essence. This means that at the soul level, you always were, are now, and always will be. Your soul has never not existed, and your soul knows everything. It knows that what we call time and space do not exist in the way the mind understands them. And it knows that the realm of the spiritual is also the realm of the absolute, in which all there is the energy that we call pure love. So it knows that what we call ultimate reality is, in 6 words, pure love always, here and now. I was reminded of these things in the Conversations with God dialogue, in which I was informed that what we call ultimate reality is divided into 3 aspects, or what CWG has termed realms, as a means of helping me understand. These are the realms of the spiritual, the realms of the physical, and the realm of pure being. Not surprisingly, this is a trinity. CWG tells us that all of life, in fact, in every form and at every level, expresses as a triad. We see it everywhere. We see it demonstrated in ourselves as body, mind, and soul. We see it in many theologies, which speak of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. And we see it in our conceptualization of time, in which we talk about past, present, and future. We see it when describing space as well. We talk about here, there, and the space in between. We see it even when we order an ice cream cone, when we're asked, will that be small, medium, or large? Even though we think of some things as dyads, hot and cold, fast and slow, black and white, we realize with just a tiny bit of deeper exploration that all seeming dyads, all seemingly opposing pairs, have a fulcrum point in between that is neither one nor the other. Or to put it another way, thinking of things as straight lines connecting polar opposites at their endpoints is deceiving.
Okay, fantastic. Nice segment there, Neale. So again, this was just a little segment out of this huge masterclass. Let's just share screen and bring on the program page so we can kind of scan the 24 modules. This program includes 24 modules. This came from module 6. There are 24 modules, and there are 3 mentoring sessions that are recorded. There's MP3s, so you can listen to the program as you're traveling. There's a Facebook group. All of these things are part of this program. And if you haven't read the 9 Conversations with God books, this is a way to get at what we think are some of the most key elements in all of the Conversations with God series. So, and we're scrolling it here. So, in Module 1, Really Know God. I'm going to just read these quickly. Module 2, Hear God in Your Daily Experience. Module 3, Know How You Really Are. Know Who You Really Are. 4, Activate God's Power. 5, Turn anger, fear, doubt, and pain into love. 6, Be clear about the purpose of life. 7, Self-realize. 8, create friendship with God. 9, create communion with God. 10, ask the fundamental questions. 11, know the great secret. 12, live consciously in a contextual field. 13, embrace failure. 14, follow the impulse of the soul. 15, choose a state of consciousness in advance. 16, there is enough. 17, live into the unity of all of life. 18, speak your truth all the time. 19, harness the power of metaphysics. 20, shift to positive thoughts. 21, never fear or mourn your own death or the death of another. 22, love yourself. 23, there's more going on here than meets the eye. and then 24, awaken the species. So again, we're giving you just a little snippet here of what is in our Final Frontier. There's just a ton that we can get to. Now we're going to put on the screen the Humanity Stream Plus, our subscription service platform, where this program is with other programs, Michael Beckwith's program, Barbara Marks Hubbard's program, Greg Braden's program. We're going to put on the screen the link. There is the link to a Humanity Stream. You can also go to humanitiesteam.org and then just scroll through to get to the Humanity Stream Plus page. There's a 7-day free trial there. So if you enter your name and email address, you'll be able to come into the 7-day free trial, and you can gain access to Neale's masterclass, to his program, with all of the things that I described. Also on the Humanity Stream Plus platform, it's visual and intuitive. It's not the clunky old system that's mostly used in our industry. So where you see our Final Frontier, you can click on it and it'll break out all the 24 modules with a little synopsis of what each module is. And then you can go through the modules. Here's the interface we're putting on the screen. So you can just click on the link to go to Humanity Stream Plus. You can see, so Roku, Apple TV, Google Pay, Amazon Fire, Android TV, all of these things are available now. So you can not only easily get around the site and get from module to module and program to program, but as my wife and I do from Roku, instead of watching mindless entertainment, you can go and pull down masterclass modules like these that are stunning. And when we talk about making conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, the mission of Humanity's team, it's the very same work Neale's doing. This is how, because there are many, when we talk about living consciously, there are many skills that we embody. It's not just like one thing. There's so many things. There's one of our master classes on healing. Another one is on becoming limitless. Neale is the whole breakout of the Conversations with God books. There's one on conscious leadership, and there's one on the science of self-empowerment. And I could go on. You can see here the interface on the site. Just want to invite you to go check out the site. You can, again, even without the 7-day free trial, you can click on the modules and you can click on Neale's program and it'll show you all 24 modules. You can do that with each of the programs. And then if you like the idea and you want to check out Neale's program in some depth, you can register, and for 7 days you can just go take in all of this incredible content. There's a guarantee period as well if you decide that you want to become part of that platform. There's a lot more as well. I won't be able to do justice to everything that's part of Humanity Stream Plus, but there are live mentoring programs that you're invited to as a Stream member. The Global Oneness Summit upgrade, which is $200, is given to you free each year. There are completion certificates. So as you complete a program like Neale's, you can, if you want to put it on your CV or resume, you can. And other things as well. You'll be able to see more when you go to the site. Neale, let me come back to you just about our Final Frontier to talk a little bit about it. This is an amazing, amazing program, is it not?
Well, it's hard for me to comment on it since I was part of the creation of it and delivered it. But honestly, if I just separate myself from that role, I believe it is an amazing amount of information. It's just amazing messages and delivered in a really concise and important way. So I'm humbled to have been given the opportunity to be a bringer of those messages. They're not, of course, my messages that have come to all of us through the Conversations with God dialogues. But boy, talk about important pieces of information, just one message after the other, and every one of them is stunning, both in its content and in its impact. So yes, without seeming to be breaking my arm, patting myself on the back, but just to let you know that what God has given us in these messages that have been drawn from the dialogue is life-changing. It will be careful. I often say to people, be careful. If you don't want your life to change in really important, powerful, and joyous ways, don't look at this material, because this material will do more than simply change your mind about something here and there. It'll change your life. And so, yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, Steve. And not only, by the way, just to get the focus off of me for just a little bit and off of this particular program, did you see all of the marvelous programs that are being offered in this humanities stream opportunity? I think that humanities team has become really the premier spiritual educational organization on the planet today. You're not going to find this kind of content, this plethora of material, this extraordinary collection of insights and messages from so many of the powerful teachers that are out there in the world today. You're not going to find that hardly anywhere else. So take a real close look at what Humanities Team has to offer, because it's a virtual college education for the spirit. In case your spirit has been kind of sleepy a little bit, or not quite totally aware and awake, because you got caught up in the illusion of what the physical life on earth is really supposed to be about, these many courses will really awaken you to a larger reality, and more importantly, to a larger opportunity for you and all those you love. So, but yes, Steve, to answer your question directly, I do think that the messages in the Final Frontier, this particular program that you and I created based on the messages of Conversations with God, I think those messages are critical, vital, joyous, uplifting, the happis producing. Even when I watch the videos every now and then, and I just smile at it, and I think, wow, this is really important stuff, and this is really happy stuff, happy, joyful information that can change your experience of life, even in this time right now on the earth, when things are looking a little bit bleak once in a while in certain areas of our life, perhaps especially during this time.
Yeah, no kidding, especially during this time. And let me share, I said I'd bring in comments. So Michelle says, I have this program, our Final Frontier. It is and she capitalized, game changer, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. She says, you will love the wisdom Neale shares in each module. It is worth every penny and more. So this is a comment coming in from Michelle. Michelle, thank you, boy, and I agree with you, Michelle. And then Heather says, super grateful to be here, thank you. Now, let me just bring something in here. Neale was sharing, make sure that you're open to your life changing if you're going to read these books. Let me just very briefly share my own story, because it's kind of interesting here relating to this. In the early 90s, I was in Silicon Valley. Maybe I've told this story a number of times, that I was a technology entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. I started 2 companies, and in '94, my mother and my sister came to me when I was the CEO of a very fast-growing company, the first one, and they said, Steve, you need to read Conversations with God, Book 1, and it's going to change your whole life. And I said, well, I haven't heard of the book, and I don't know that I want my whole life to change. I was thinking, I'm living the American dream. Why do I want my life to change? And fortunately, they persisted and said no, and my sister actually had some spiritual experience where she was told, she said, now your brother's whole life is going to change when he reads this book. He needs to read the book. So my mother and sister kind of double teamed me, and then I went and read the book. And then sure enough, this was book 1, which came out in that time frame. And sure enough, the book deeply resonated. This was the God of my understanding that was speaking. And I realized in reading the book that I needed to follow the truth of who I am, and so I needed to spend time with that. So I was either then, as our parents tell us, born by Linda and Joe, my mom and dad, here embodied in this lifetime, who might well pursue the American dream, as many people were, and as I was in Silicon Valley, or that it had embodied maybe for the 800th or 900th time, and I was here for just a really teeny little part of my eternal journey, to play some role in this whole awakening that even then was beginning to occur on the planet. There are many of us that are conscious that go all the way back to the 90s and before, the 80s and before. And of course, if in the second scenario, where we know ourselves to be limitless and eternal, we understand that we're not playing kids' games. We're here to really follow our soul and to allow Spirit to work through us and to be part of this whole unfolding of higher consciousness on the planet, where we're working with many others all over the world. This, of course, is the work of Humanities Team. And so I felt into it, and then I came to that epiphany moment where I realized this whole entrepreneur thing in Silicon Valley, creating financial wealth, was a kid's game, and that at the end of my life I would be very displeased if this is how I spent my life. And so even before Humanities Team was started, in 2001, 2 years before it was started, I sold everything. I came out of the valley. There were some venture capital companies that were part of my second company that was not successful. My first company was successful. And the venture, one of my friends who was a venture capitalist said, we can put you on boards and there's all kinds of experience here that you can share with entrepreneurs. It would be very valuable. But I knew that my role was to be a part of this whole conscious living thing. And I didn't know what that role was going to be, but I knew I needed to allow some doors to close so that other doors might open. And then sure enough, about 18 months later, Humanities Team opened up, and where Neale, and I was in a planning session with Neale, and then the program was launched, Humanities Team was launched in June 2003, shortly after that. So boy, did my life ever change. And here I am, and so that was in the mid 90s. Here we are in 2021. But boy, what we were commenting on here a few moments ago, give unto the kingdom of God and all things are done unto you, has been true. This is I've never doubted for a moment that I've been following my true calling, that this was my destiny, that this was actually why I embodied, and that I just needed to go through the experience I did to make that decision, that I wasn't going to live just for one embodiment, the American dream, which is contributing to these great challenges that we have on the planet. Instead, I was going to come into the fullness of who I am, and my own limitless nature. And with all of these other incredible people, Neale, Donald Walsch, and other amazing leaders all over the world who likewise embody to be here now, to just be part of this process. So, and Neale and I've brought this in a couple of times already. We're talking to you about this because every one of you are a part of this. That's why you're here. That we're doing this together. And this whole, when we say make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, there's no way on earth, of course, that Neale and Humanities Team and a few other smattering of leaders could ever do that. That's all of us rising up. That's humanity saying, I know who I am. I'm going to live as who I am. I'm not going to play kids' games. I'm here for a reason. I'm following my soul's calling. I'm going to do it. And I believe that's what people, all of you, are doing that are here on the screen with us now.
See, people are waiting for this. My experience has been that people are actually waiting for some collective effort to make itself known. That's why Humanities Team has been as successful as it has been. in these most recent days and times, because there's bunches of people all over the world are saying, I'm in. I really want to do this. I really want to experience myself as who I really am, and I want to do whatever I can through the living of my life in a particular way to stop playing. I love the way you put it. Children's games, kids' games. Get the guy, get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the money, get the power, get the power, get the money, get the. I mean, it's not about that, as we've been saying, but we've been looking for a way to harness the energy, because the statement "wherever two or more are gathered" is a very powerful statement, and humanity's team has created that way. It's created a space within which we can not only acquire additional remembrances and additional understandings, but also acquire the power, the collective energetic, to put those understandings into place, into our lives and into the lives of those whose lives we touch. That's what makes humanity's team and the work that we're doing together here so powerful. So you get to make a choice today. You actually have an opportunity here. If you're watching this now, I don't want you to think it's by coincidence. There are no coincidences in the universe. And don't think for 1 minute, I just happened to stumble upon this particular moment in time where Neale and Steve are talking about, all of this stuff in front of me. No, this has not come to you by accident, by happenstance, by coincidence, but in fact by design. So you're hearing these words and you're hearing this invitation, because if I could put it metaphysically and metaphorically, it's the invitation that you've been sending to yourself for a long time. And there's something deep inside of you that can feel that. Yes, I've been sending this invitation to myself for a very long time. The invitation to announce and to declare, to express and to fulfill, to become and to experience who I really am, and then to join with others in producing an outcome that can shift the reality of the planet on which I live. And I can be part of that movement if I choose to. And this is the moment that I've created to allow me to remember once more what I'm really doing here, why I really came, and what the opportunity is that's being placed before me by life itself and by myself. The opportunity being placed before me by myself to allow myself to know the role that I want to play, and then to play it full out with the support of many other people all over the globe. That's what we're talking about here. And we can achieve this in the years just ahead. And imagine, can you even think about the gift this would be to your children and to your children's children and to those you love? Can you imagine being the sponsor and the creator, one of the co-creators of that gift, so that when in fact you do decide to leave your physical form and this particular incarnation has reached an end, you can look into the world and say, oh my goodness, look at the wonderful world that I joined with others in creating and passing on to my children and to my children's children. It can only happen if we all join humanity's team. That I don't want to just harp on this for the rest of the time, but let me just share one thing. I woke up, the whole humanity's team idea was a dream that I had, not unlike the Conversations with God experience. I woke up looking at the world the way it is. I had a dream in which I was looking at the world the way it is, with all of its challenges, all of its difficulties, frankly, with all of its hatred that I was seeing, and alienation and disconnection between peoples of different races and different religions and different cultures, of different sexual orientations, of different political points of view, of different economic strata. I was seeing all these differences. And I remember in the middle of the dream looking at all these players in the game. And I remember thinking to myself, but who shall be on humanity's team? Who shall be on humanity's team? And I woke up in tears thinking, we need humanity's team. And I raced. I woke up in the middle of the night, mind you. This is not at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. It's at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, whatever it was, in the middle of the night. I threw the covers back, went down to my little room where I have my computer, and I thought, I've got to see if even if there is such a thing called humanity's team. And I thought, surely there is. Surely even the domain name has been taken. It's gone. Of course, this is not a terribly original idea. but I typed in the words humanitiesteam.com and it was available. Nobody had created that particular domain. And that's when I knew. I said, okay, I hear you again. Another conversation with God. And, I immediately purchased Humanities Team and every permutation of it, every misspelling, every every way you could present it. And that's when I called together people that I knew. I just issued a public invitation on the internet. Come to my house. Let's talk about this idea. But who would have imagined, not to throw roses, but give me 30 seconds to say, who would imagine that a person, like this guy over here, who would have imagined that a person like Steve Farrell would show up and say, you know what? I've had the same dream. Maybe not with the exact precise same words, but with the same foundational content. I left everything behind to do what you're talking about. Is there a place for me in this particular process? And I said, Steve, a place. Take the ball and run with it. Be it. And he has done that for the last more than 20 years and turned it into a global organization that provides you, watching this now, with the power of collective action, the power of a single thought made collective. Wow, a single thought made collective. We are all one. Incidentally, in case you missed it, that was the very first message in the first chapter, on the first page of 3,000 pages of Conversations with God dialogue. The first message that I was given, we are all one. Now, if we can put that into practice and find a way to do it politically, economically, socially, and certainly spiritually, we can change the world virtually overnight. So notice that you didn't come here by accident and by coincidence. You're hearing the invitation over and over again. Say yes.
Absolutely. Say less and know there is, in fact, no separation, and live that way. Because the divine, even now, there's a question on the screen from a listener who says, can you ask God a question? And there's a question. But the whole point here in We Are All One is, which is the foundation to conscious living, is that the divine is indwelling. There is no separation, or between Neale and I, or between us and you. And when we are near each other, we can actually look at each other and we can feel into each other. And we could almost say, you're feeling this and this and this, which is part of this oneness. And likewise with the divine, where we have an earnest prayer or an earnest question, and we open it up. We bring it to the divine. We say, I need to know. And I know the answer is here. And the answer will appear. It'll appear. All of the answers come from within. So let me thank you for your gracious things that you said about me and Humanities Team. Thank you, Neale. And I want to invite people, come to humanitiesteam.org. That's with a Y, humanitiesteam.org. If you want to make conscious living manifest worldwide by 2040, so in 19 years, come to the humanitiesteam.org website, sign up, just leave your name and email address, and all of the things we do, the Global Oneness Summit, which is around the corner. Neale is a part of it again this year. The Humanity Stream Plus program, our mission statement, which talks about picking up the pace, and PACE standing for Planetary Awakening and Conscious Evolution. And it's saying that if we're going to, by 2040, make conscious living pervasive, we've got to pick up the pace. There's a lot we need to do, and it talks specifically about how to do that. So I want to invite you to come to the humanitiesteam.org website, join our mail list, participate, come to the Global Oneness Summit, which is free. Take a look at you can scroll down to Humanity Stream Plus to see the site, this graphical, intuitive site, where Neale's program and all of these other programs are located, and you can check it out. It's the future of what transformational education is. As I mentioned, in the industry right now, there's something that's very clunky, a technology that's very clunky that's used to kind of get from module to module. And which means it can be challenging to get from Neale's module 10 to Neale's module 11. And then even more challenging if you want to go to Barbara Marx Hubbard's program or Michael Beckwith's program, because it's technically challenging. We were the first to introduce this platform in the industry that's like your favorite data streaming platform, a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, where it's so graphical and so intuitive that you can't get lost. And from your Roku box or Amazon Fire box, just watch masterclass after masterclass after masterclass. So check it out. There's nothing like it in the industry. You'll see when you check it out. And I think we're going to put a link in the window too that takes you right into that 7-day free trial if you're interested. So now Neale. And we've said this here during the program, but let's really even put more focus on it. This whole manifesting of conscious living worldwide, it's actually happening now. And if we are paying attention to how it's unfolding, how it's manifesting, we'll see it with our very own eyes. We are pointed straight at it right now, are we not?
It's happening everywhere around the world. And what we're doing really is bringing an end to separation. That's what because that's what's caused our problems through the years. So we have an opportunity now to bring an end to the separation cosmology. It's all born in our idea that we're separate from God. I love what I heard Steve say a minute ago. Divinity is indwelling. It's indwelling. There's no separation between us and God. If we can embrace such a notion, and for some theologies, that's a theologically revolutionary notion. But if we can embrace and find a way to make real in our life the notion that we and God are not separate from each other, that doesn't mean that I am God, but it does mean that I have the same relationship to God as a wave does to the ocean. A wave is not separate from the ocean. A wave is not something other than the ocean. It's simply the ocean in magnificent, singular, individual expression. And when that individual, powerful, glorious expression is complete, it recedes back into the ocean. That is our relationship with the divine. But the problem on the planet is that so much of our thinking is based in an idea that we're separate from God. I call this separation theology. And separation theology produces a separation cosmology, a cosmological idea that everything is separate from everything else. And the sad part about that is that a separation cosmology produces a separation psychology. Individual psyches imagining that we're all separate from each other, not just separate from God, but separate from everything. Here I am standing alone on this planet all by myself. And a separation psychology inevitably produces a separation sociology. Entire societies that try to defeat the feeling of being separate from everyone by forming societies, but then they've made those societies separate from each other. Political parties, we call them nations and states, we call them religions and faith traditions. We call these organizations by a variety of names, and they all think that they have separate agendas, and they're incredibly separate from each other. And the sad part about separation sociology is that it inevitably produces what? Separation pathology, pathological behaviors of self-destruction in evidence from the beginning of time. That's now ending. Steve is absolutely correct. We are seeing now, we're opening our eyes and we're seeing, I see the through line. I see how we got to where we are. And I see that we no longer choose to be where we are. We have the collective ability, the collective understanding, and the collective power to change all of this. All we have to do is end our idea that somehow we're separate from each other and separate from the divine. And so we are all one becomes the guiding principle that we invite everyone to embrace and to see if there was a way for us to apply that notion, that idea, that concept of oneness, of singularity. If there was a way to apply it in our politics, in our economics, in our social constructions, and certainly in our spiritual traditions, what way would that be? And here's where the magic comes in. You get to tell us all of us. That is, we get to model the behavior. Gandhi said it perfectly. Be the change you wish to see. So here's where the invitation becomes real for all of us. Yes, it's happening right now all over the world. We're seeing more and more people everywhere you look, more and more messages like this everywhere you look. It is rising up, and we can become part of that uprising of this. It really is an uprising. We can become part of that uprising of the human spirit by declaring we are all one. And what does that look like in everyday life, in moment-to-moment experience? And our answer can be, it's a daring answer. Are you ready to give a daring answer? Here's the daring answer that you can give when people say, well, what does that look like? We are all one in day-to-day life, in moment-to-moment experience. And your answer can be, watch me. I'll show you what it looks like. Watch me. Watch how I think. Watch how I speak. Watch how I act. Watch how I interact with the rest of me that I call you. And not just other human beings, but all of life, the planet, the earth, the universe, the cosmos, and that aspect of all of it that we call the divine. Watch me demonstrate to the best of my ability every day my understanding of that. If you make a choice to do that, and if you're looking for tools, ways in which you can do that, because it's a big, like Steve has said, it's a big idea. I can recall my father coming into my house, into my room, when I was a young boy, 13, 12, 11. My father would come to me, he'd say, what's the big idea? What's the big idea? And then he would ask me the other fundamental question. Who do you think you are anyway? Who do you think you are? My father was asking two of the great metaphysical questions of all time. And these are the questions that we get to answer right now. What's the big idea? And who do you think you are? Let your life as you move forward from this moment on be your answer to that question. And if you are looking for tools, a bit of equipment, some insights, some processes, some information that can help you remember how to respond to that question, to those questions in the grandest way, then check out some of these programs that Steve's been telling you about, because they've been placed there by you, by the way, for you, to equip you to move forward to this most exciting time in the history of our species.
Yeah, thank you, Neale. Yeah, there are over 25 of the transformational education programs on the platform, and we're adding more content every week, over 600 hours of content now. So we haven't anywhere done justice to all of the incredible programs that are there. Let me just say here, Neale, as you were talking about the Gandhi thing, that might sound, especially when we bring Gandhi's name into it, or Mandela's or something, it sounds like, that's Gandhi, or that's what Mandela did. But the beauty of this, what Neale was talking about, is where we're just following our soul's calling. That's all. Just following our soul's calling. Just truthfully following the impulse of our soul in every moment. And we know when we are, because one, it feels really good, and two, the cognitive dissonance stops. The incessant tapping on the shoulder stops. We know we're just moving, going straight ahead with what that calling is, expressing who we really are, or what we really feel. That's all we're doing. So it's not like this is some big thing where, I'm not Gandhi. All we're doing to be, to live consciously is just to really stay in this focus of what my soul's calling is, following that guidance in every moment. That's all that we're doing, and it's really not that hard. And I know for many of you out there, it's not that hard. We've got comments coming in, by the way, from people. Carol is saying, I had the same dream in 1978 that I would live in a world of peace, love, harmony, support for each other, unconditional love. That dream has been driving me since then. So Carol, there you go. So there's a lot of Carols out there that are living it, and it's not hard. In fact, what's hard is if I go back to before I made the decision that I did in the 90s, where there was the incessant tapping on the shoulder, Steve, hello, Steve, and the cognitive dissonance of, this is really fun, but why am I doing this? Can you relate? The cognitive dissonance, the tapping on the shoulder, these things stop when we surrender to who we really are and say, okay, I'm in. The divine source, universe, cosmos, I am in. From now on, we're walking together. And that's where the real prosperity starts. That's where the real prosperity starts. So, and here we are. Boy, this hour's gone fast, huh, Neale?
Yes, I love that, though. Maybe I'll write a book called Soul Prosperity. Wow, what a great idea. That's where the real prosperity starts, when you feel rich at the level of your soul. That's exciting.
Yes.
I love that. I love the whole idea.
We still have challenges, of course, because we're in a spiritual gym, but the worry goes away. This is one of the things. There are so many things, but the worry goes away because we know we're exactly where we're supposed to be, expressing of who we are, just every day getting up and following this guidance, living the life that we were supposed to live. And we know we're not lost. We are right on track. And sure, there are challenging days again. I'm not saying that the challenge goes away, but I am saying the worry goes away because we're very clear that we are absolutely living the life that we were to live. So, okay, well, what a fantastic hour it's been here, Neale. Thank you for being our special guest. What a terrific hour. Hey, let's live consciously. Neale's work, Humanities Team's work, your work, I'm guessing, is about living consciously. Let's make it pervasive worldwide by 2040 and all just even decide maybe this afternoon that we'll stretch even a little more. We're already on this journey. That's why we're here today. But let's all say, hey, let's stretch a little further and really live it even a little better and make this happen together. Let's do it. Okay, so Neale, thank you very much. Viewers, thanks for being here. We'll have another special guest next week. Look forward to being with you next week. Always a pleasure. So love and peace and blessings, everybody. Wonderful being with you here today. Thank you, Neale.
Bye, everyone.